Listen, Spotify, Apple, Google, and everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Aliza Siegel. Thanks for listening.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg.
When Bernie Goetz shot 4 teenagers on the New York subway in 1984, he was celebrated as a hero. Locals who felt abandoned by police applauded Goetz for, quote, taking the law into his own hands.
As it was explained to the jury, whether these young men were actually trying to hurt him, were actually trying to rob him, all that mattered is that Goetz thought they were.
Hear all about that era-defining case in the newest episode of Crime Story, hosted by me, Kathleen Goldhar, everywhere you get your podcasts.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app for free.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lachuk. It is noon and 23 degrees in Winnipeg under mostly cloudy sky, some sun out there as well. We're looking at a chance of showers, maybe a thunderstorm in southern Manitoba this afternoon. We actually have a severe thunderstorm warning in place for the area south of Brandon around Wawanesa. Some pretty intense rain and thunderstorm activity moving through that area. Today in Winnipeg, a high of 28 degrees. Manitoba will start monitoring some individuals accused of crimes with ankle bracelet. The NDP is bringing back the electronic monitoring program that was cancelled back in 2017. The CBC's Ian Fraze has more.
The ankle bracelets will supervise people who are on bail. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe did not immediately say how officials will pick which accused criminals will be monitored, but one of the focuses will be on shoplifters. These devices were used in Manitoba until 2017. The former PC government cancelled the program, citing an NDP-ordered review that found them inaccurate and ineffective. But last year, the PCs changed course, saying the technology has approved. The new GPS-enabled devices will now launch under the NDP government. The equipment will monitor the accused individual all day. Law enforcement can be alerted, and a loud noise will ring out when the wearer enters a location they're not supposed to. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
People in the fly-in community of Bunbonabee Cree Nation are being forced out because of a nearby wildfire. An out-of-control fire is burning just south of the community, also known as Oxford House. Red Cross spokesperson Jason Small says it is working with the community to make sure everyone leaves.
We're starting with flights today, and people will be going to stay in Winnipeg, Brandon, and Thompson.
Small says the community reached out to the Red Cross for support when that wildfire became a concern. He says the Red Cross is also helping fly people with respiratory issues out of Nelson House and Tatasquiac Cree Nation as well because of thick smoke. Winnipeg is seeing an uptick in COVID-19 cases, and an epidemiologist says we can expect to see more. In the city's south end, there has been a high virus activity level detected in the wastewater. Levels in the west end are moderate and so far low in the north end of the city. Dr. Christopher Labo says the increase is likely because of travel.
We are seeing a spike in COVID-19 cases, which is consistent with what we saw last year. COVID-19, in defiance of conventional wisdom and atypically compared to other respiratory viruses like influenza, does seem to have a summer bump, and that is what we are seeing now.
Labo says cases are expected to continue to increase as we get closer to the start of the school year. He says updated vaccines will be released in the fall to coincide with the flu vaccine. Winnipeg police are searching for a suspect after a man in his 30s was stabbed on a transit bus. Police say it happened yesterday afternoon around 5 on a bus near Main and Selkirk. Investigators say the man was on the bus when there was an unprovoked dispute with a man and woman. That's when he was stabbed. That couple took off. The victim was sent to hospital in unstable condition, but later upgraded to stable. The Major Crimes Unit is investigating. A 61-year-old Winnipeg man is dead after a vehicle rolled near Arborg. RCMP say it happened around 1 yesterday afternoon on highway number 68. They say an eastbound semi-trailer was traveling east on the highway when it lost control and rolled into the ditch. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene. RCMP are continuing to investigate. Immigration Minister Mark Miller says he is looking into revoking the Canadian citizenship of a terror suspect. The man and his son are facing terrorism charges in the Toronto area for allegedly plotting a violent attack. The CBC's David Baxter has more.
I'm as disgusted as any Canadian, but I have a responsibility to get to the bottom of it, and I will.
Immigration Minister Mark Miller says he's tasked his deputy minister to find out who knew what when in regards to the citizenship application of Ahmed El-Didi. The 62-year-old man is currently facing terror-related charges. El-Didi's co-accused is his 26-year-old son Mustafa, who police say is not a citizen. The father is accused of committing aggravated assault outside of Canada in 2015 for the benefit of ISIS, the Islamic State. And Miller says he is exploring further action.
I'm also going to take the next step, which is to start the preliminary work with the evidence at hand to look at whether the individual in question's citizenship should be revoked.
The revocation of citizenship is subject to a federal court hearing, unless the person at the center of the matter requests the minister makes the decision. David Baxter, CBC News, Ottawa.
And finally, a charity in New Zealand is apologizing for handing out tainted candy. The candy was part of food parcels distributed by the Auckland City Mission Food Bank, but the pineapple-flavored treats were laced with potentially lethal amounts of methamphetamine. At least 3 people needed medical treatment after eating the candy. It's believed it was from an anonymous donor. Police think it is part of an international drug trafficking operation. And that is the CBC News in Winnipeg. You can find news updated anytime you want at cbc.ca/Manitoba or on the free CBC News app. I'll be back with your next local news coming up at 12:30 right here on Radio Noon. Today in Winnipeg, a high of 28 degrees. Chance we could see some thunderstorms or some showers this afternoon. Slim chance of that. Better chance for showers and thunderstorms in the west today. 23 the high in Brandon, 24 in Dauphin this afternoon, 26 with a cloudy sky in Thompson. This is CBC Radio 1.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Radio Noon. I'm Brittany Greenslade. I'm your host this week, filling in for Janet Stewart. We have another jam-packed show, and we want to hear from you. Calls to turn off cell phones in Manitoba classrooms are only getting louder as the new school year gets closer. We'll chat with a local teacher, and we want you to join our conversation. That's coming up at 12:35. If you're itching to go, you can already text us 204-588-7355. We're also going to be talking about designer bags, high-end denim, and how you can find it all at Winnipeg thrift stores. We're going to show you how you can do that, so stay tuned for that. But first, are you missing the Olympics? The 2024 Manitoba Games is taking place in Dauphin this week. We'll speak with the Senior Games Manager straight ahead. As I said, I'm Brittany Greenslade, filling in for Janet Stewart this week. Thank you so much for joining us this hour. Well, if you're like me, you tuned in to probably a few hours, many hours of the Olympics. But just because the Paris Olympic Games are over doesn't mean cheering for your favorite local athlete has to be. If you need your competition sports fix, the 2024 Manitoba Summer Games is currently underway. This year, it's taking place in Dauphin. Drew Todd is the Senior Games Manager for the Games. I spoke to him yesterday after the show.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us. So, Drew, what can people expect for attending the Summer Games?
Well, the Manitoba Games is kind of our province's version of the Olympics, and it couldn't be better timing with Paris just wrapping up, I think just a few days ago. And it's a multi-sport event that's hosted every 2 years, alternating between summer and winter sports, where we get, well over 1,500 athletes, coaches, and managers all into the province in one week spell here. And we've got 12 sports, and so far it's been an absolutely amazing atmosphere, and it's been a really good time. And we're looking forward to phase 2 coming up the rest of the week here.
It's amazing. It's a lot of athletes. So what kind of categories are they competing in?
Well, all athletes are aged 10 to 17. So you're kind of looking at those that are your up-and-coming development level athletes, maybe a couple steps away from a provincial team. And the 12 sports are basically your mainstream ones. You've got your volleyball, baseball, basketball, but even some really great, somewhat niche sports like triathlon, sailing, rugby sevens. So we cover quite a wide variety of athletes.
It really sounds like there's a sport for everybody when it comes to watching and even playing as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. At one point yesterday, we were in a meeting with about 15 people, and I'm pretty sure almost everybody had a different sport, and every single one was named as their favorite. So we're able to fulfill all the needs here, I think, of any sports fan out there.
So you guys are doing something a little different. Can you tell me what Front of the Pack is?
Sure. Yeah. So I think as a provincial system, we're kind of embarking on a brand new high performance plan, with the end goal of developing more competitive, more successful athletes across all areas of the province. And one of the main pillars of this plan is looking at talent identification and exposing athletes into high performance environments at a bit of a younger stage. So Front of the Pack is an athlete performance testing combine that we are taking along with the Manitoba Games and going to run all day tomorrow. So while athletes aren't competing or while they're finished, they're going to work with some of our certified sports scientists, strength and conditioning coaches. We're going to run them through a gamut of tests. You got sprint tests, vertical jump, agility tests, that kind of thing. And so it's a really cool opportunity for these athletes to measure themselves up towards a benchmark and give themselves something to shoot for as they develop.
I love that, competing against yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So why are these games so important?
Well, they're really our provincial games as a province. We get to choose the sports that mean the most to Manitobans, the ones that we have the highest participation level in, and really get to celebrate our culture of competitiveness and sport and just the enjoyment of physical activity. And one of the really cool things, I think, is that we kind of have an internal rule that we do not host in Winnipeg. We see this as a rural sport development program. So we're getting out every area in Manitoba, throughout the years, whether it's the north, south, east, west. Athletes and coaches are coming from all around and really just having a great time. And then we're able to leave a legacy, I think, in some of these communities, whether it's brand new equipment, upgraded infrastructure, or even the human capital by training new volunteers and referees and coaches in the local area. Hopefully meaning that, when we're all packed up Sunday, the Manitoba Games is still going to be thought of in very high regard and lead to a lot of, great development with sport in this area.
I love that because you get out of Winnipeg, you get to these smaller communities sometimes where kids have a chance to see other teens in some of these sports that maybe they've never tried. You guys are inspiring some of these younger kids and maybe the older ones too to get out and try something new.
Oh, absolutely. We were just watching a volleyball game the other night, and you just see this little 6-year-old girl who points to her mom and says, "That's going to be me in a couple of years. That's going to be me." And it just really warms your heart because that's what you really want to get out of an event like this.
Just the excitement. So you mentioned the volunteers. What does your volunteer team look like?
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of this group, especially with all the stops and starts over the last 6 years of planning. These games were originally supposed to be run in 2020 and then had to get postponed 4 years. So there's a core group of about 60 to 70 volunteers that have been planning for years and years, some of them. On top of that, we have about 700 general volunteers who are working for the whole week. And when you think about Dawson's population, we're about right around 10,000. So when nearly 10% of your entire population is all working together, supporting the delivery of one huge event, it really speaks to this city's culture of volunteerism, culture of giving back, and just it's very inspiring. I think when you look at they're really punching above their weight, I would say.
Oh, and also very Manitoban to be so charitable and giving back.
Absolutely.
We mentioned there's a sport for everybody, and everybody on your team was looking forward to a different one. What are you most excited for?
Well, it's hard to pick between the sports. It's picking between my children. But, I think just when you work so closely with this group of people and they waited so long for these games, the opening ceremony is when we raise the Canada Games flag, lit that cauldron, and you just see everybody's face beaming with pride because it's finally happened. We finally get into the finish line here. All the work is paying off. And if you could just walk down the road here and just see how happy everybody is, I mean, that's enough to get you through a year of a tough day. So it's a really, really amazing experience.
Well, Drew, we wish you all the best in the next couple days.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Drew Todd is the Senior Games Manager for the Dauphin Summer Games.
Food, art, music, dance, and more. Cultivation Festival FAMD is back August 19th to 25th. Proudly sponsored by CBC. Come celebrate Manitoba's rich Filipino culture with events taking place all over the city, like Ceremonia, an all-Philippine X art exhibit, Lupa Ay Bahay, a Filipino indigenous craft exhibit, and Sala, a Filipino film festival. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
It is just ahead of 12:15 here. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM. Lots more to come still, including this fall. Students in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Ontario will be heading to class without their cell phones. And while the same will be true for some Manitoba students, calls to ban cell phones from the classroom province-wide are mounting. We're going to be chatting with a local teacher. We want you to join the conversation. That call-in opens at 12:35, but you can shoot us a text right away here, 204-588-7355. I want to know what you think. But first, coming up next, how you can hit the jackpot and find gold next time you go thrifting in Winnipeg. Here in Winnipeg, we are looking for a high of 28 degrees today. It is sunny right now, but we do have a chance of a thunderstorm later this afternoon, and we're actually watching a thunderstorm just southeast of Brandon that's slowly moving to the northeast. We could be seeing some hail, heavy rain moving into that area. That's what we're going to be watching this afternoon. Winds gusting up to 40 kilometers per hour. And then we are dealing with air quality advisories as we start to make our way north. In Thompson, you're dealing with that. 60% chance of showers later this afternoon there as well. That smoke that we're dealing with, highs of 26 degrees. And up in Churchill, air quality advisories, but also a heat warning. That large ridge of high pressure moving in. Looking for highs of 31, feeling more like 36 degrees. I'm Brittany Greenslade. I'm hosting Radio Noon all week long. Janet Stewart is off, and we're talking about thrifting. So what is the best thing you've ever found while thrifting? I don't know. A Winnipeg woman thought it was her lucky day when she found what she believed was a designer bag valued at, get this, more than $40,000. Well, she shared her find on TikTok in a video that now has more than 20,000 likes. Only to later learn her great designer find was actually just a really great dupe. But her post sparked a conversation about secondhand shops and all of the amazing items that can be found, usually cheaper, right here in Winnipeg. Teddy Gilmartin is also an avid thrifter, and as a matter of fact, she's dedicated to visiting every thrift store in our province. She shared her experiences with the CBC's Emily Brass.
Hi, Teddy. Every thrift store in the province?
Yes.
Really?
I am determined.
Wow. So you make day trips out to other towns?
Yeah, so I actually work full time. I started this originally when I was self-employed, so I did kind of hammer out a lot at the beginning. So I'm moving through a little slower than I did at the beginning, but there's around 100 thrift stores in our province, which is actually quite a few. We are very lucky that we have so many, and I'm at about 65 done.
Wow, good job. So have you ever found anything designer, or maybe thought you found something designer?
So only once. I've found a pair of Valentino shoes. They were vintage and in kind of rough shape, so I did leave them behind. And that's kind of part of my mantra as well, is, if it doesn't work for me, leave it for somebody else. We want treasures for everybody, right? Kind of hoarding them to myself isn't my point, I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to find that good stuff,
Yeah, and you don't want it to pick up dust in your closet either, right?
Someone else is going to love it.
Yeah, that's great. So what is the best thing you found while thrifting?
I found quite a few amazing things, to be honest. I'm not going to brag, but one of my favorites, I'll share two of my favorites. The first one is a bright pink sweatsuit that I found in Palm Desert at this amazing thrift store. It is just terry cloth. It has Palm Desert logo. It gives absolute desert vibes. I wear it almost every day. So that's one of the pieces that I utilize and use all the time. And then there's one piece that I've never worn. I found it in a thrift store in Vancouver, actually. And it is a vintage Toronto designer that it's, shoulder pads. It's from the 80s. It's cheetah. It's got a peplum. It's in fantastic shape. I'm not sure if, the previous owner even wore it very much. And it just sits in my closet waiting for the opportunity for one day to wear.
Oh, I kind of remember those dresses. That's awesome. So how did you get into thrifting?
So I've loved thrifting for, my whole life. I've been a little bit dramatic and a little bit flamboyant since I was a kid and enjoyed dressing up. I remember in high school, I would wear heels and clothes from my dress-up box growing up, which I loved to dress up. So people almost even used to make fun of me for wearing such odd things. But ever since, I've just enjoyed it. I also enjoy the idea of giving older items new life. So making sure that we don't create intense waste. The fashion industry is a huge contributor, probably the biggest contributor to environmental waste, not only, in our own landfills, but being shipped overseas to developing countries. So ensuring that we can give new life to old products and, have a little bit of a different style, look a little bit unique. That's my favorite part.
Great reasons. So what separates a good thrifter from a great thrifter?
Dedication to the thrift, getting up on that, Saturday morning and being committed to going and spending time. So I find that when you walk into a thrift store and you want to find that particular thing, I'm looking for this, you often don't find it, and then you overlook a bunch of beautiful pieces. So going in with an open mind, looking for anything and everything that might catch your eye, and also leaving other things behind, like I said before, making sure that, you aren't keeping all these amazing pieces to yourself to resell or make a ton of money on. Leave the thrift for other people to enjoy as well.
So you probably need like a certain vibe or attitude when you walk in the store, right?
Yeah, chill. Relax.
Yeah. Like you said, we're often focused on getting that one thing, but be open.
Get a coffee,
Yeah, exactly.
Take your time. Yeah.
Exactly. It's recreational.
Yes.
So you've been to almost every thrift store in the province, or a lot of them, like you said, dozens and dozens of them. So far, which town has had the best stuff?
That's a good question. I find that a lot of the time when you move outside of the city limits, you find a lot of great stuff. So a lot of those, like even house items like mid-century modern, I found a lot of like classic mid-century modern items for low prices outside of the city. So one of my favorite stops so far has been Austin, Manitoba. They just had the best prices. I really value saving a buck when it comes to clothing, not in fast fashion. We want to make sure we're not buying new stuff at super cheap that will just, fall apart and we discard, but we can find these amazing older pieces for super cheap. So Austin, Manitoba had like $2 for things. I found this amazing leather jacket, I think for $4 that is so warm and an amazing fall piece. I could even wear it into winter. It has polar fleece and this massive hood. And again, it's a style that you don't see super frequently. So kind of stand out from the crowd while saving a buck.
Oh, Teddy, I need you to teach me your ways. Teddy Gilmartin is an avid thrifter from Winnipeg. She was speaking with CBC's Emily Brass. Well, Winnipeg's Cease Lopez has released a new EP under their R&B label Cease. It's a collection of relaxed tunes exploring queer love. Here's Cease with Wet Paint. That was Cease out of Winnipeg with Wet Paint. Their new EP is called Free Burn.
Angeline Tadaweo hosts The Block.
Afrobeats to jazz, hip-hop to R&B, Calypso, Kez the Band, Michelle Montano, Bob Marley, Bounty Killer. So we really give all these artists a chance to shine, and the key is in the programming, in making it make sense, and making sure that the music is fluid, a fluid experience.
The Block with Angeline Tadaweo. Available now on CBC Listen.
Female athletes have always needed grit and talent. But for decades, they've also needed a certificate.
To prove that they were actually women, according to different definitions.
And even now, they're still being checked and questioned. Their story is the newest podcast series from CBC and NPR's Embedded. It's called Tested.
Tested. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming up at 12:35, we're going to be speaking with a local teacher about a potential cell phone ban across the province in schools. We're already seeing it in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Ontario. And I want to hear from you. What do you think? Are you having trouble getting that phone away from your kids already? Are you a teacher who's been dealing with this in your classroom? You can text us right away, 204-588-7355. Our phone lines will open at 12:35 if you'd rather tell me your thoughts. But we're already hearing from some of our listeners right now. Amy has already sent us a text, and she says, as both a teacher and foster parent to a teen with debilitating phone dependency issues, I'm so excited for a cell phone ban in schools. Policing their use in my classes is a daily struggle that causes rifts in student-staff relationships. Full-grown adults are negatively affected by constant, compulsive cell phone use. Our kids need to be protected from that harm and allowed to be free from phones' insidious distractions in classrooms. Amy, thank you so much. Strong feelings there about whether or not phones should be allowed in classrooms. I want to hear from you. What do you think? I mean, I say this right now. I have my phone right beside me here in the studio, mainly for work purposes, but it's something that we so depend on in our daily lives. And as our kids are growing up, as they're making their way in the classroom, trying to learn, is this too much of a distraction? Should we be taking them away? What do we need to be doing? We're seeing this in other provinces. I want to hear from you. Give me your thoughts. Text us 204-588-7355. Our call-in lines are going to open at 12:35. So if you have strong opinions and you want to voice them, you can give us a call, 204-780-0893. Again, that text number, which you can do right now, 204-588-7355. And we're actually going to be speaking with a grade 6 teacher about what she sees in the classroom right now, what kind of distraction this is. And you know what? Ontario is even going further than this. And they're taking social media websites and they're removing them from the school's networks and devices. So maybe you have a thought about that. Do we need to go even further than just banning those cell phones in schools? Let me know your thoughts. Coming up straight ahead, though, is your news with Riley Lachuk.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lachuk. At 12:30, 26 degrees in Winnipeg, a mostly cloudy sky at the moment, a bit breezy as well. Severe thunderstorm watch now in place for Brandon and Westman as we see some thunderstorms moving through the area south of Brandon this hour. The Manitoba government is bringing back ankle bracelet monitors for offenders who are out on bail. The province says it is spending nearly $3 million over 2 years with the option to extend the program if it's successful. The previous Progressive Conservative government scrapped the ankle bracelet program in 2017, but after a review found the bracelets were often ineffective or inaccurate. Today, Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says the ankle bracelet chosen for the program now is more reliable and secure. It will track offenders using GPS technology 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will also have voice, audio, and vibration commands, and can even emit a loud alert to notify police if an offender goes somewhere where they are not supposed to be. Hundreds of people from Bunbonabee Cree Nation are on the move because of a nearby wildfire to their community. Flights started arriving this morning to help evacuate the community in northeastern Manitoba. Jason Small speaks for the Red Cross.
This is an evacuation due to approaching wildfires. So we were activated late yesterday, and our team is working with the community to help get everybody out of the community that needs to get out.
Small says evacuees will be taken to Winnipeg, Brandon, and Thompson. The Red Cross is also evacuating people with respiratory issues from Nelson House and Tatasquiac Cree Nation near Thompson because of heavy smoke in the region. A man is recovering after being stabbed on a Winnipeg transit bus. Police say the man in his 30s got into an unprovoked fight with a man and woman while on the bus near Main and Selkirk yesterday afternoon. The man was transported to hospital in unstable condition and later upgraded to stable. Police say both suspects fled, and officers are working to establish a description for the two. The World Health Organization is meeting to decide whether to designate Mpox a global threat. Yesterday, Africa declared that it had spread the virus across the continent there as a public health emergency. It happened after a new, more transmissible variant jumped from Congo to neighboring countries. There's also been a spike of cases in Toronto. Health officials are telling those who are eligible to get vaccinated, and there's a news conference regarding that happening at this moment. More on that coming up on The World this hour at 1 o'clock. And Tropical Storm Ernesto is now a Category 1 hurricane. People in Puerto Rico are cleaning up after Ernesto drenched the island with torrential rains and cut power to 500,000 homes and businesses. The National Hurricane Center says Ernesto can become a major hurricane in about 48 hours. It is now taking aim at Bermuda and is expected to arrive there on Saturday. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you, Riley.
No problem.
Well, welcome back to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM and 990 AM. I'm Brittany Greenslade. I'm in for Janet Stewart all week long. Let's take a look at our weather just real quick here. We are watching a thunderstorm that's just southeast of Brandon, moving slowly to the northeast, could be bringing hail, heavy rain. So we want to keep an eye on that. If you are in the area and you have some photos, you can send those in to us as well. But that wind gusting to 40 kilometers per hour, and it is humid. Looking for highs in that area of just 23 degrees, but that humidex making it feel more like 31. Here in Winnipeg, there is a potential that we could see that thunderstorm later this afternoon as well. Right now, it's just about a 30% chance, but it is possible. High of 28 here, feeling more like 33 degrees. And we have warnings and watches kind of all over the place. Air quality advisories in Thompson. You guys also a risk of thunderstorm late this afternoon in that area of the province, but it's that smoke that you're dealing with right now. Highs of 26 degrees. Again, feeling warm, feeling more like 30 degrees. That air quality advisory continues up into Churchill, where you're also dealing with a heat warning. That large ridge of high pressure that is bringing warm air to the north. Daytime highs in the upper 20s, low 30s. Overnight lows in the high teens. Still expected through that week. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that over the next coming days. Looking like we'll have more seasonal temperatures in the Churchill northern region by Thursday afternoon. Right now feeling more like 36 degrees in that region. Well, time now. I want your thoughts. Is there a place for cell phones in our classrooms? The Manitoba government is promising to reveal its plan for cell phone use in schools later this week. Right now, each school division sets its own rules. Most tell students to keep their phones in their pockets during class, but a few have taken it further. The French language school division is entering year 2 of a ban. But how will a cell phone ban change classrooms? Our next guest is Sophie Theodoro, a grade 6 teacher from Winnipeg. When she's not teaching, she's on TikTok showing other educators how they can use AI in their classrooms. We want you to join our conversation. If you have thoughts on a cell phone ban, call us 204-780-0893, or you can text 204-588-7355. Good afternoon, Sophie.
Good afternoon.
So nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
I know a lot of parents that have a lot of thoughts on this.
Oh, yeah.
We already heard from Amy. She's a foster parent and teacher. Okay. She says she's real excited for this.
Absolutely.
And that there's some debilitating dependency on cell phones.
Absolutely correct.
What do you see in the classroom?
To be completely honest, I see at a middle school level, I've taught anywhere from grade 5 to grade 9, and I don't see any place for cell phones in the classroom. Zero. And I really, really think that if this ban goes through, it'll be a really good thing. In my opinion, schools are places for students to learn and for students to develop emotional intelligence and socialization. And cell phones and social media don't have a place in that at that young age. Their brains are not developed enough to be able to differentiate between like the reward center and is this actually helping me? Like, it's just not a place for cell phones. They're only in school 6 hours a day. They have the whole night to go on their phones or their iPad. School should be for face-to-face and for learning. So
we talk about socialization, and social media is so different
Mm-hmm.
from socialization.
It really
they sound
is.
very similar,
Yep.
but really it's a chance for not only kids to learn, but learn how to behave and how to act and build relationships as well.
Precisely, yes. And there's arguments that, well, we need to teach our students digital literacy and how to behave online and how to behave on social media, which we do, and there's a place for that, and we always do that, but that doesn't mean they need to be using them in school. And again, they're kids. They're just learning. They're going to make mistakes on their phones, and we can do our best to teach them to use them properly, but that doesn't mean they need to be used in the classroom as a distraction.
And the big difference from what we saw decades ago is the mistakes you made didn't end up on the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So when you went to university and you went out with friends, there wasn't phones everywhere. There wasn't videos everywhere. And these are things that kids do need to learn, but we have a lot of other learning that needs to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how, in your experience, how common is it for kids to be on their phones during class?
During class, you know what? If it's in their pocket, they're going to go on it at least once if it's an hour class. That's in my experience. I work at a great school where we have these things called phone caddies. So if the student has a phone and they bring it to school, instead of keeping it in their locker, they keep it on my desk, and then I have a phone caddy, which is just a series of slots where students keep their phone in their assigned spot and then get it at the end of the day. That way they know it's locked and safe and they don't lose it in their lockers. But then at the same time, if we do want to use the phones for an interactive activity or something like that, which we don't usually do, but they're there, they're safe, they're with me. So that's been great.
So if you have a thought on that, give us a call, 204-780-0893. We do have a call already. Stephen, I want to bring Stephen in on the line right now. Stephen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you have a thought on this?
I sure do. I am just curious about whether administrators, EAs, teachers, any educator within particularly high schools, will they be putting their phones away, modeling what they're asking them to do?
That is a great question. Sophie, would you use your phone in the classroom already?
I don't use my phone when students are present. If I'm on my lunch break, yes, but other than that, I keep my phone away as well. It's a huge distraction for me. I know in my school, EAs, all staff are not to be seen on their phones in class. I know administrators need to have their phones on them for safety purposes, but they are also advised not to be on them in front of students. So absolutely, all school staff need to be role models for students about appropriate phone use.
And Stephen, I'm guessing that's where you're going with this too, right? If the kids can't be on it, the teacher shouldn't be either.
Precisely.
Yeah, and I think that's true. The other piece too is, we now live in a social media world where we want to connect high school students to mental health supports that are usually text messages, low barrier. And I'm just curious about, have they thought about those things where when a student's in distress, how are they going to communicate to resources, knowing that the resources in schools are not always available?
Yeah, and we're still waiting to hear from the province. Those are great questions that I know that we will be posing to them. Thank you. But Sophie, maybe just explain to us how that works right now.
Sure.
When kids need that help and maybe they're too afraid to go up and talk to that teacher face to face.
Yeah, for sure. I would be curious to know how many students actually utilize those resources. I know I haven't had that experience in my teaching. But yeah, that is a good point. Maybe if it's an at-risk student, maybe they have a student-specific plan and you have specific accommodations for that student. I think it's hard to say a blanket statement for everyone. And there are a ton of resources available in schools like guidance counselors and stuff like that. But I totally agree. Sometimes kids don't want to speak up or they don't feel comfortable talking to an adult. So I think it would just have to be decided on a case-by-case basis. But also, if a student needs that phone for mental health support, they can't go both ways. They can't be on it abusing that privilege, going on social media, flaunting it in front of other people kind of thing. So I think it could be possible on a case-by-case basis. Absolutely. Manitoba schools do a great job of accommodating all learners.
Stephen, thank you so much for your call. That was great. And Sophie, I think that's one of the things that we're also looking at too, right? Is there's the abuse, because there's a lot of trust put in kids, especially right now when there is no set rule. And I would imagine it kind of changes classroom to classroom depending on the teacher as well. And I see you kind of rolling your eyes a little bit, because it's tough when they can go, especially once you're in high school and you don't have the same teacher for every period. You're going from one to the other, and it's like, well, this teacher says I can't, this teacher says I can, and
that's
then there's no consistency.
Exactly. And so that's why I think having yes, you can have a school-wide policy, but even a province-wide policy would be even better, because blanket statement. And for substitute teachers, they might be subbing interdivisionally, and they might not know this classroom's cell phone policy or this school's policy. But if there was one really simple policy, it would just seriously be so much better for students and for teachers and for just general behavior problems in the classroom.
Yeah. Parents, teachers, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on a cell phone ban in schools, in classrooms? Give us a call, 204-780-0893. If you just want to shoot us a text like Amy did, you can do that too, 204-588-7355. I know I'm certainly distracted by my phone.
So am I.
I have two.
Yeah.
I have a work one, I have a personal one.
Yes.
And, my mom says it all the time when I go back to Vancouver and I see her and I'm hanging out with her during the day. She's like, put your phone away, right? It is really hard to keep ourselves connected.
Absolutely.
Well, disconnecting from this phone. And I've said it. I've got it right here. It's close, right?
I'm the same way. And for me to be saying these things, people probably think it's hypocritical because I am a social media content creator. I'm always on my phone, but I'm using it in ways that are appropriate. But that's not to be said that I'm not distracted by my phone all the time. Like right now, I'm working from home, doing social media. I am so distracted by my phone because these apps, these Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, the algorithms are wired to keep you on them longer. That's what the founders and the big honchos at these companies want. They want engagement. They want you to stay on this app as long as possible. So it's truly just a productivity killer, honestly.
I have friends all the time, their daughters message saying, can you give me a little bit more Snapchat time? Can I have a little bit more TikTok time?
Seriously.
I want to go to Christine right now, who's on the phone here with us. Christine, good afternoon.
Hello.
You have a little bit of a different opinion here.
I do. I think that we sound like a bunch of grown-ups that our words are out of date, and we need to, as my teenage son would say, kind of get with the times here, Mom. I think cell phones should be allowed in high school. I think that we need to learn to use them properly as a tool and to teach our kids as parents, not as educators necessarily, to use their phones appropriately, and that if you as an adult are having problems with distractions, then using your phone, putting it away is not the answer. Phones aren't going away, nor is the access to technology or the use of it for appropriate things in the classroom during class time. But to learn how to use your phone to set different focuses on it, to control those algorithms and not let them control you, to shut down certain apps at certain times, but to learn how to use it and to teach our kids how to use it as a tool responsibly and to learn what to focus on, being the teacher first. And I know that sounds like, it's not a 1-second conversation. It's something that we're learning. I think we're in a transition time here, evolutionary-wise, and it's not something that we know how to do, but learning how to focus and not be controlled by distractions is something we need to be modeling for kids, not just putting the phone away, but modeling appropriate use.
Yeah, you see, I didn't have social media when I was in school, so this wasn't a thing. So, Christine, how do you teach your son kind of that proper use? Do you have any tips out there on how you do it?
We have. I think it's about a lot of things. It's about finding those teachable moments and finding the teachable moments, especially to point out what I'm doing. So, for example, at the dinner table one day, my phone makes a ping, and I pick it up and look at it. I don't sit down and have this in-depth conversation of why I just looked at my phone, but I'll comment, I've programmed my phone to make that sound only when Grandma is texting me, and that's a Grandma text sound. So I'm just peeking. I can talk to her after supper. Put it down. Example modeled. We're watching a movie at home, and my son is sitting on the couch next to me. I pick up my phone and look at it, and I'm touching it. And as I'm putting it down, I can say, I got distracted away from the movie. I wanted to see whether it was going to rain tomorrow or not. I should check that after the movie. Sorry, son, put it down. So I'm teaching myself, reminding myself, and modeling those things as well. And I talked to my son about when you're in class, you're there to be listening to the teacher. And if you look at your Snapchat to see what your friends are doing at lunch, you might have missed only 4 or 5 really important words that's going to affect your grade later in the year. So don't look at your phone during the class. Be the brave one and be the leader amongst your friends. So only look at your Snapchat after class.
Great tips. Christine, thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Sharon, we've got on the line as well. And Sharon, you've got some tips too, kind of based a little bit on what we heard there with Christine, but for parents.
Yes, I'm of the older generation. I hate saying that, but it's true. My son, when he was in school, cell phones and smartphones weren't even a thing till he was probably grade 10, 11. So my experience dealing with it is not the same as, for example, Christine. But listening to what she was saying, I think the role modeling starts at a very young age today. I'm out and about, being of a certain age, don't have a job any longer, retired, and notice young parents with small toddlers still in a stroller playing on a tablet. I notice mothers walking with their noses in the phone and the child's beside them, tugging away, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." It starts very, very early. And to me, I've read articles with regards to what sociologists and psychologists have been saying about having children so young become more or less addicted at that age to always being instantaneously entertained. And as they age and they grow and they get through going to school and then entering middle school and then high school, it becomes harder and harder and harder because you're already enabling their habits. And it's not a good thing, and I feel very badly for the children. So, for example, today with cell phones and smartphones in the classrooms, the lady before, Christine, mentioned, I don't put my phone away. I say, well, it's a special thing for Grandma. I don't have my phone with me. I have an allotted time where I might spend on my iPad or on my phone. That's it. I'm out with my phone. I hear it ping. I ignore it. It's a matter of, I suppose, depending on your personality, but self-training.
Yeah.
To not always, it's like Pavlov's dog. Bing, you hear the bell and you'll salivate. No, you have to really put some work into it. Really,
Sharon, thank you.
Really work hard.
We do need to work hard. I'm putting my phone away. I'm putting it out of arm's reach here right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Sophie, I saw you nodding your head yes there as she was talking about some of that as well. Just what were your thoughts on that?
Lots of things. So I know Christine was the first speaker, and she said she was talking about phones in high schools. I'm talking about phone bans K-8 right now.
Yeah.
High schools, I think, is a different story. But I think there should be a blanket statement being like, okay, you guys can have your phones, but if you abuse it, it's gone. Like, it's going in your teacher's lockbox for the rest of the day. I understand that. I understand they have learning management systems and they need to see, they need to submit this assignment at this time. And it's all very technological. But I'm talking about are developed, but their decision-making centers are not. And that is K-8. And so I don't see a place for cell phones in class at that age. High school is a different story. And I think Christine really spoke to how much responsibility is on the parents to teach their children responsible technology use. I was a server for 7 years, and the amount of toddlers I would see I worked at a steakhouse at the table. Nobody colors anymore. It's just the tablet in front of their face. I'm like, this is crazy. Or if the toddler starts crying, they just put a tablet in front of their child's face. And that's going on a different tangent.
It's a different self-regulation too, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's worrisome. And I think we can teach our students the best ways and model the best ways to use technology. But when they're younger than grade 8, they're not going to listen a lot of the time.
We still have a few minutes left here. If you have thoughts on this, whether phones should be banned in schools, give us a call, 204-780-0893. You can also give us a text, 204-588-7355. Sophie, do you remember when you first got your phone?
Yes. I actually am a Gen Z myself, so I can attest to this. I got my first phone. Well, I got my first phone in grade 7, but that was like one of those flip phones for calling my grandpa because he picked me up from school.
When it was just able to call.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it makes sense. And then I got my iPhone when I was in grade 10. And then all throughout university, it got to the point where I would be so distracted by my phone when I was studying that I would put it in the pantry and like just close the door in a different room. But then 5 minutes later, I would get up and go get it.
You had to run and check that message. Yeah.
Yes. So I actually told my parents, can you please keep this until 10:30 when I'm done studying? If I ask for it, don't give it to me. I need to study and I'm really distracted. And they would do that for me. But it's a very addicting thing. And there you go. There's a self-regulation strategy that some people just do need to put it away, right? And yeah.
I remember getting mine when I could drive. So I'm a little bit older than you, I think. I'm an elder millennial, I guess I'm called. But it was used just so that I could call my parents if I needed to, because I was now driving a vehicle. There was a responsibility.
Exactly.
But that changed too. And I was the same in university. I wanted to put it away too. We do have another caller, Claire. I want to bring Claire in here. Good afternoon, Claire.
Hello.
You have some thoughts on this as well. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was a high school teacher for a long time and resisted getting a phone until less than 10 years ago. You don't hear a whole lot of people arguing for more use of cell phones in the classroom. Very few. The kids themselves know that it's a distraction and that they're not going to be using it for like, oh yeah, I'm 100% looking up Johnny McDonald.
Yeah, exactly. I'm using this to look up, exactly what you're asking me, right?
Yeah, there really is no need for it. I agree with the other caller who said that it shouldn't be the schools or the teachers' responsibility to crack down on that. Like parents need to socialize their children to be able to entertain themselves, to be bored. It's also a part of socialization, because I remember kids just, even at lunchtime and in the classroom during COVID, they had to eat in the class, and it would be silent.
Yeah.
Because they're all on their phones.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking to each other.
Claire, I feel like there's something to be said for having to put the phone down to not look up those. I mean, I'm guilty of it. You can ask my friends. I need to find the facts. It's me as a journalist. But there's something to be said for when you're in school, looking it up in the textbook, having to look in the index and find what page it's on. It builds research skills.
Well,
It does, absolutely.
And most schools have one-to-one technology, iPads or Chromebooks.
Yeah,
so
now
there's no
especially.
need. Yeah.
Yeah, there's literally no need. And I mean, of course they're going to fight for it, because it's kind of like, if we said for a year you can have cupcakes every class. Well, yeah, exactly. Then as soon as the cupcakes are going away, they're going to lose their minds.
Where are those cupcakes? I want in on that.
But I mean, again, they know that the phone is not good for them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Claire, thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
So we don't know yet if the province is going to move to ban cell phones. It's been talked about, but do you think there's any other alternatives that could work, or is this really something that needs to happen? Is this it?
That's a great question. I think kindergarten to grade 8 absolutely needs to happen. High school is a different conversation. I think implementing perhaps phone caddies in high school, where the students don't have their phone physically on them, but it's in the classroom, and then they can take it and move along to the next class if it's a distraction. Or, I don't know, I think high school is a little bit of a different story, but absolutely no place for them K to 8. And I've heard parents say, well, how am I going to contact my child at school? And I say, how did you contact your parents when you went to school?
The payphone.
The phone in the office.
Or that too. I was going to say, I don't even know if they have payphones in schools
There's no
anymore.
barrier. You go to the office, the secretary says, hi, how are you? Oh, I
Mhm.
need to call my mom. Okay, she dials it for you. There you go.
Yeah.
There's no excuses.
There is a way to do it.
Yeah, and if your child needs special accommodations and maybe they have an anxiety disorder or whatever, you can do that on a case-by-case basis. But I mean, that's always worked, just to call from the school phone, right?
You can go to the office. You can ask.
Exactly.
And not every kid has a cell phone, so that might be what they need to do already, right?
Exactly.
So we do have a text. It's in regards to the parents needing to teach proper use. So they say not all kids are coming from the same home environments. That's right, Amy. She says that's the have and have not dynamic when kids don't have phones, but their classrooms do. And school is supposed to be an equalizer. That's a great point.
That is a really, exactly. It's a fantastic point. And I've seen that too. Like, grab your phone. We're going to do a Kahoot, which is like a game show. And they just use their phone. I always feel bad because not everyone has one. I'm like, okay, let's make some groups here. And it's just like, you know what? We don't need this. We have computers. We can use those.
Another reason why we shouldn't have it in there, because every kid should feel like they're on that same equal footing when they walk into school.
Exactly.
At least when they can, right?
Yes, for sure. And not feel lesser than or whatever, right? So, yeah.
This was great. We love hearing from all of you listeners. Thank you so much. Sophie Theodoro is a grade 6 teacher from Winnipeg. Sophie, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. I could talk about this all day.
Right? We only have an hour. If you want to comment on what you heard here today, if we can keep this conversation going, you can leave a message anytime, 204-788-3797. We do want to be hearing from you because this is an important conversation that we keep hearing from people. Sophie joining us this afternoon. Thank you to all of our callers, our texters for bringing that conversation and keeping going. Sophie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, it has been a full hour. Thank you so much for joining me. But Chloe Friesen is going to be your host for Up to Speed today. And Chloe joins me now. So, Chloe, this conversation might keep going if we keep getting those texts. But what else is happening on Up to Speed?
We're going to change the focus a little bit, Brittany, to sharks.
Oh, I love sharks.
Yes.
Is it Shark Week?
No, it's not.
Oh,
Actually,
darn.
Shark Week is over, but we're kind of continuing it in southern Manitoba. And when you think of southern Manitoba, you usually don't really think of sharks.
No.
But that's the location of an exciting new discovery that's changing what we know about the marine reptiles that used to call the area home millions of years ago. An exciting new finding out of southern Manitoba.
Millions of years
ago.
No, I definitely don't think about sharks when I think about Manitoba.
No, but I guess we should be.
Very cool.
We'll find out more.
I love it. Again, if you want to keep this conversation going, you've got thoughts on the ban of cell phones, send us a message, leave us a message, 204-788-3797. I've been your host today, Brittany Greenslade. Thank you so much for joining us. Dylan Longhurst, Chloe Friesen, our tech and our director today. Thank you so much for both of you over there. And of course, Travis Peterson, our YouTube live stream over there. Thanks, Trav. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Coming up next, Writers and Company.